your kid commits a crime that is morally incorrect in the eyes of God.
Right.
If you put your kids first, you will lie, you will support
Yeah.
that for him not to go to jail.
Right.
But if you want a kid that understand that that is incorrect, that you should never do that, you're going to let him go through the consequences. That's just my
Yeah.
personal opinion. And that's putting God
Yeah.
first before your family, because I think that is the right way to do that. So
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. Um, Now you mentioned something. You mentioned that you got pretty sick in the last couple of years, and I don't want to dive into deep because I know some of it might be personal, but um, for those, the purpose of this question is for those that either have a sickness or something like that. How do you overcome that and continue what you do? Because you're a busy guy, and you do a lot of stuff, and you're on camera right now, super energetic, and I've seen you. Personally, I've seen you in your lows, and you're still super energetic, happy. So, how do you overcome the sickness? Is it faith related? Is it, does it motivate you more? What is it that drives you when you're down, when you're sick, when you're going through a whole bunch of mental struggles? What do you do that helps you continue moving forward and continue being the Josiah Smelser that I know?
Man, I think it comes down to the fact that we're all a vapor, right? We're a
Mm,
vapor in the wind kind of thing. Like we're here today, gone tomorrow. So, this 2 years ago when I started getting sick, I got this upper respiratory thing going on where it's like we just thought it was bronchitis, pneumonia, that kind
mm,
of stuff. And it just wouldn't go away. It just never would go away. And it got to the point where I couldn't sleep. And then they were doing cultures of this stuff, and it comes back with this bacteria that is extremely difficult to kill. Like I'm reading that you'll have this your whole life. And it also, I get on Google and I look it up, and it says your life expectancy is 5 years.
mm,
So I'm like, I'm 43 years old right now. So we're talking, I'm 41. I've got little kids. I finally worked myself to death to get the business where it needs to be. And it's like, now I've got this. And I'm like,
mhm,
why? Why did this happen to me? Kind of thing. It's like kind of like Job. I felt like I'm trying to honor God with my life. And I've got this
all this stuff
illness that
happening.
came out of nowhere and I couldn't even figure out why I got it. And it stumped all these doctors. I was going to all these different doctors, really good doctors that were like, we can't figure out what's going on here. And when I tested positive for this bacteria and I read that I've got 5 years to live, I'm like,
Mm,
okay, I've really got two choices here. My first choice is to get all depressed and feeling sorry for myself and to like just stop working and stop being productive and stop what I'm doing and just try to live my last 5 years, in the easiest and most non-stressful way possible. And the other option is to like fight it, like to with every fiber of my being, and to leave no stone unturned. And I've always thought like we're all going to die, right? um wouldn't you rather rather live the last years of your life with a smile on your face and being productive and doing everything to the best of your ability, and people remember that about you, versus the other option of just being bitter and frustrated and negative and shutting down and quitting? And like that's one thing about me. Like I made a ton of mistakes, but like I'm very hard-headed when it comes to like when I have a goal, like I'm like a dog that's got his teeth locked onto something, won't let go. So I was like, I'm gonna approach this just like that. Like I'm gonna be so tenacious and I'm not gonna quit. And I'm like, I'm gonna leave no stone unturned. I'm gonna do anything and everything I can.
mm,
And so I literally went to every doctor. I did everything. I watched every video. I read every book. And I just started taking every possible treatment I could get to beat this. And I spent so much time in prayer. I went forward in church and had people pray for me. I had people praying over me. I had a lady that that some people say has got a gift of healing pray
mm,
over me. That was crazy. It was crazy. And I just had people texting me all the time. And in the middle of all this, there are multiple times where I thought, like, I would wake up at night, couldn't breathe. Like, I'm coughing up stuff that's like, don't even want to get into how nasty it looks. I'm like, what has happened to me? Like, I'm dying.
Mhm.
There were multiple occasions where I was like, I am not going to live. I'm going to die with this. Multiple occasions. So I had to come to, I had to come to terms with the fact that, like, it was very likely I was going to die soon. And it's like, what am I going to do? So I chose to continue to honor God with my attitude, continue to pray, continue to give thanks. I would come out here to my office and I would just spend time in prayer at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. when nobody else was up,
Mhm.
just praying to God, just glorifying God, thanking God for what He's given me, thanking God for this thing that's happened to me. Um, and I just had to approach it that way. And the crazy thing is, one day I just got better and I'm still well.
I'll say
And
that it's not crazy. That's a miracle right there, brother.
dude, I keep thanking God for it, and I'm like, I'm honestly nervous it's going to come back, but I'm like, and I did every bit of everything I could. Like, I was taking 3 medicines that were so strong they would make me sick just taking the medicines, and they didn't do
Mm.
anything. Like, this stuff I had just kept right on going. It was like ignoring this medicine that was terrible.
Mhm.
And the worst part about the whole thing was, like, not only the lack of, like, heart difficulty breathing, but it was that I was getting like 2 hours of sleep a night. So when you get 2 hours of sleep for like a week, you feel bad. But when you get 2 hours of sleep for like a year and a half,
Mm.
you're like, your emotions are so fragile. You know what I mean? So it was like I was dealing with that. That was the hardest part about it. But all of a sudden, I just started getting better. And like, part of it was I was exercising like crazy. I was going to the gym every day. I was doing cardio. I tried this cold water stuff. I was taking all these different medicines. I was taking probiotics. I was taking multivitamins. I was doing everything and anything. I stopped eating dairy. I stopped eating gluten. I stopped eating eggs.
Man.
I took allergy tests. I did all these tests, and eventually, the stuff just started going away. And I just think it was God's goodness. And I don't know whether this was given to me as a test. This was given to me to develop me and into a better person, because I think I've certainly come a long way with some things in light of what's happened, but it was the hardest by far. I mean, nothing even compares. Like, having malaria 5 times in Africa was a joke compared to this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but man, I mean, people out there struggling with chronic sickness, like, it is a serious journey that you're on. I think the hardest part is the mentality and the mental struggle you're dealing with. And, like, you just got to remember that God is still there, God is still with you, and you have to adapt and adopt a mindset of, you're going to do everything you can within your power. You can't control some of the things that are going on, but you can control your response to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, well, first of all, I appreciate you sharing that because that's uh, I mean, not everybody would share that, and I really appreciate you. I didn't think you were going to share the whole story. I know we've talked about it, outside of a podcast and stuff, but I didn't know you were going to share the whole thing. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate you sharing that, and I think it can motivate somebody that's going through an illness. It can motivate them to fight and not feel depressed for what they're going
Yes.
through. Another thing that I can point out from that, I don't know if you heard my wife just, I don't know, scream. I think she just dropped
Nope.
something. My
I
bad.
didn't hear it.
You did hear it?
No.
Okay, okay. Well, man, I guess this mic is doing some good work. But anywho, uh, another another thing that I get from hearing you speak is that when we go through a struggle, I don't think the first thing that people think of is thanking God. I think if you're going through a struggle, first of all, you're going to be like, please, God, help me. Please help me
Yeah.
now. Help me
And
now.
I was saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But you mentioned something that you were thanking God for what is going on. I mean, I have not seen many people say that in public, at least, but that is something to recognize. I mean, if you're Christian, even if you're not Christian, God, the God up there has the power to do anything